Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon,
Good afternoon.
Council
Let me,
President.
let me apologize for my tardiness. I was actually on budget and finance meeting, actually doing real work and tuned in to that meeting and adding some comments. So thank you all for your patience. And I think we are rolling now and have began. So I am again want to say good afternoon to everyone. And for those who do not know, I am your Detroit City Council President, Brenda Jones, and I welcome you to Live from the Table. I think they've already said we are live on Facebook at www.facebook.com/CP Brenda Jones. Each Wednesday, I join you to talk about items that have come across or will come to the City Council soon and very soon for action. We usually deal with demolition contracts, land sales, grant approvals, and other such items. But every now and then, we vote on something that is very cool and very exciting. Notice I said every now and then, okay? Yesterday was one of those times. Let me say that everybody knows about Hitsville and Motown and this R&B music, but Detroit is also known for Jazz Town. Our excited Paradise Valley Historic District represents the Black entertainment area in Detroit from before my time, which was 1920s through the 50s, where Billie Holiday and Duke Ellington performed. Now, added to that is the Bluebird Inn Historic District, and on Tuesday, Council approved the creation of the district named for one of Detroit's most storied West Side clubs. Jazz greats such as John Coltrane and Miles Davis played at 5021 Tireman, also known as the Bluebird Inn. Last year was purchased by the Detroit Sound Conservancy that will create a music and research archive and reopen the music club to continue the rich history of jazz in Detroit. Another long-standing building in Detroit is one that we sometimes go to for our health issues, known as Henry Ford Hospital. The original facility opened its doors before my time as well in 1915 at what was then the edge of the city at Hamilton and West Grand Blvd. Throughout the years, the hospital campus has grown and added new buildings, larger staff, and more patients. Which brings us to our discussion today. As I look and see these exciting faces smiling at me, I'm seeing Megan Dunn that is smiling at me. Henry Ford Hospital is proposing a new parking garage for its West Campus Boulevard. Joining me today about this project, I've already given the great name of Megan Dunn, Henry Ford Hospital Director of Community Outreach and Partnerships, Mark Corriveau. I don't know, Mark, I think I got your name right. I don't know, I wouldn't put $1 million to it, but I think I have it halfway right anyway. How do you pronounce that, Mark?
You did very well. Corriveau is right.
Okay.
That.
And he is the Vice President of Government Affairs for Henry Ford Hospital. Kevin, I think I can get your name right. That's Kevin Robinson. He is the security manager. Also, I think I can get this name right, Marcell Todd. He is the CPC director. See, he's smiling because I got his name right. I think the worst thing you can do is pronounce somebody's name wrong. They don't like that, and I understand why they don't like it. I'm carrying Gage, who is the Planning Development Department Design and Development Innovation Director. Russell Baltimore, who is also with Planning and Development Department Design Review Planner. Joe Adams, Community Representative. And I think I can get this last name right as well, Sue Mosey, Midtown Detroit Incorporation. Thank you all so much for being here. So my first set of questions is for Henry Ford team, and I'm going to let first Henry Ford talk about what's going on there. So who would like to begin that conversation?
Thank you, Madam President. I will begin. This is Mark Corvo from Henry Ford. I will kick it to Mr. Robinson for sort of some brief specifics of our current situation. And then Megan Dunn will talk about our community engagement. So with your permission and appreciation for giving this opportunity, I'll begin at your direction.
You have my permission.
Thank you.
And we'd love to hear what's going on and why the garage is important.
Thank you. And I'm going to share an overhead view of the area so that everybody can be on the same page as to what area we are looking at. So this is everybody able to see the screen?
No.
Let me try again here. I think that's it.
Yep.
So as we look at this visual
You know
here.
you're sharing the screen, but we don't see it. Okay, we see it now.
So this is an overhead view. As you can see on the right there in the middle of the screen is the Lodge Freeway. The square directly in the middle is our main campus. And if you look at the top middle, you see the proposed parking structure site. Which is already a current surface lot with a bigger portion here and then a northern portion. And you'll hear some discussions about the houses that run along Seward right here. So that is Seward, this is Pallister, and this is Poe, which runs along the west side of the west side of our campus. So I think it would be also helpful to just do a quick look back. In the 15 minutes, I want to make sure we get as far as possible, but I think it'll be of some value to kind of take a peek back, because although this garage and the need for this garage on its own is critical and important to the Henry Ford health system, it does fit into a larger picture and a larger vision that the Henry Ford health system has been pursuing for some time. And it goes back to 2007 and went all the way to 2012 as we began to look at the expansion and the neighborhood plan that we would be undergoing that we are now right in the middle of. As you said, we've been on the Boulevard for 105 years. We're a 35,000 employee system with 5 acute hospitals. But this main campus and our flagship is what we're here to talk about today, and the importance that it plays in the community and the importance that the employees that work in our facilities are to our success. But through that neighborhood master plan that we developed through 2007 to 2012, it really kind of settled in on some principles. On those three are integration, which I'm going to read from a memo that we submitted to the Planning Commission that Madam President, you will also receive, that kind of talks about these principles that we follow as we're looking to develop our campus. But we talk about integration, which means we want to extend infrastructure to connect new developments to surrounding neighborhoods, avoid creating edge barriers, promote accessibility, and densify street fronts to attract community users. We also are concerned about placemaking. We want to establish a bold vision for lifestyle, culture, and economic activity. We want to provide space that attracts and accommodates public engagement, interaction, creativity, art, recreation, gardening, and the like. And then finally, authenticity, which is we want to recognize what already exists and what is already happening, determine how to preserve and build upon these assets and efforts to exist our existing challenges. So this has already begun to take shape. Many may be aware this kind of led our 500 million, 300 acre vision for revitalizing our part of the city. It started with the Cardinal Health Distribution Facility, which is south of the Boulevard, behind our cancer center today. That led to the $155 million state-of-the-art cancer center, which is directly south of the Boulevard. We believe that'll be an ability for us to attract talent and patients from Michigan, from our country, and even all over the world. Many of you might also heard over by our headquarters, the new Detroit Pistons headquarters. As you can see, our headquarters is right here. And we gave up this parking in an effort to try to attract the Pistons to come back and have their headquarters right here in the city. And we also built our Center for Athletic Medicine right next door. So all these principles have continued to drive us. And as we move forward to talk about specifically the Henry Ford Hospital and this parking structure, we just want everybody in the city to know that we are extremely motivated and committed to making sure that we remain an anchor institution within the city. And as we continue, and when I wrote this memo, I wasn't able to kind of reference it, but in recent months, everyone may have also heard that we've entered into a letter of understanding with the Michigan State University, which could also, as we look forward, play a big role in making sure our campus is accessible, efficient, and structured in a way that recognizes that we have been in the community for a long time and we have neighbors. But in addition to making sure we have employees that want to come work with us and patients that want to come down and receive their care in our facility. So as it relates specifically to the parking structure, we were asked to identify our problem. And in the memo, I'll just go through why this piece is so important today, regardless of what we've already done and regardless of what we may do in the future. But we identified concerns from patients, residents, and employees regarding the parking access near and around our hospital there on main campus. In response to this, we began an internal planning to create solutions that would alleviate the employee parking challenges that we have. Just so everybody understands the amount of people that are in this area on a daily basis. We have about 38,000 patient discharges a year. We have 7,500 physicians, staff, and health professionals coming to the campus every day. There's actually 10,000 employees in the entire city, but 7,500 in just this area, including our headquarters. And we have 101,000 visits to our emergency room every year. So with that volume of patients and employees, it's resulted in a lot of ongoing difficulty related to finding appropriate parking on campus. We've implemented shuttles, we've done off-site parking, and we allow our patients and our employees to park at headquarters as well to try to alleviate the problem. Unfortunately, despite our best efforts to be creative, we've exhausted efforts to provide additional convenient, safe parking at a level our patients and employees expect and deserve. These parking concerns have created neighborhood street congestion, employee safety issues, patient satisfaction issues, and just general angst about where it is that people park when they come to see us. And we know now that as many as 300, 400 vehicles on a daily basis are parking within the neighborhood around the hospital. And we believe this employee parking structure can address that problem. But to talk more specifically about some of these problems that existed a long time, we've asked Kevin Robinson, who works in our security, to come and address specifically what he sees on a daily basis and some of the problems that exist today without a parking structure for our employees. Kevin?
Let me Hey, Mark, before you go any further, because I hear you, and I know you guys have some great information, but let me ask you this question, because I just want to ask, I hear you, I hear all of this great information, but one of the concerns that I've heard from the community is that they feel that they're being left out of the planning developments of the planning stage of the development. So has the community been engaged during the development of the plans for the garage, and how have they been engaged, and have there been any meetings for the community? Because I hear it, and I know that it's always important to keep the elected officials engaged in what's going on. But can you just tell me, because I know the community has some concerns, they just feel like they've been left out. So what's going on as far as the community outreach with it?
Sure.
Mark, before you answer, will you please unshare your screen so the people on Facebook can see our speakers? Perfect. Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, President. Yes, and Megan, we will then pivot to Megan now to address specifically, since we filed our rezoning application in June, what we have done with the community. So Megan, can you share with the President and the constituency what we've done so far to try to work with the community?
Thanks, Mark. Sure, I'd be happy to. And thank you, Madam President, for inviting us to engage in this sort of new way around this project and other projects. I've seen other Facebook Lives, and they've been very, very interesting and helpful. So Henry Ford has been building in this particular community for many, many years. I've been with the health system for almost 10 years, which is really surprising. I can't believe 10 years has gone by so quickly. And have always been open to meeting with neighbors, talking with neighbors, listening to their voice, and making sure my role, I feel very specifically and passionately about, is that I take the community voice back to our leaders, and that I bring messages from our leadership and from our teams to the community. So I really see my role as a go-between to make sure that the community is updated and feels that they are very much so a part of the process. So as a result, in 2019, leading up to after the first CPC hearing in June, we held 3 community meetings. The first one we held on July 15th. Actually, we held it in the backyard of Miss Adams' home, and Joe is here on the call. Joe, is very nice to see you. Actually, we went door to door. We went very grassroots and went door to door to meet with neighbors on Seward between, well, the Lodge Service Drive, there's no homes, but right on Seward between the Lodge Service Drive, and I think we went up to Post Street, door to door to alert neighbors of this neighborhood meeting that was held on July 15th. I think about 10 to 15 neighbors actually attended that meeting. We were very—
How many doors did you go to, Megan? I'm sorry. How many doors, do you know how many you went to?
It's hard to say. We went to every home on Seward between the Lodge and Post Street. So I don't know how many homes are in that 2-block radius, but we did visit every neighbor to alert them of this neighborhood meeting. So my apologies for not having that number. And in some cases, we talked directly to neighbors at their home. Some cases, neighbors weren't home. And if they weren't home, we left a flyer, an invitation for the upcoming neighborhood meeting. And so we had that meeting, as I mentioned, on July 15th. We thought it was very, and we were very purposeful of having it. And actually, Joe volunteered to have it at her home, and we were actually very supportive of that because her backyard faces the proposed garage. So we thought it was important to have it there so we could have a conversation with the community while literally looking at the space where this garage may be built. So again, I think a handful of residents attended, 10 to 15, if I were to guess. Again, this was over a year ago. And we had, I think, a really good meeting. And when I say really good, Madam President, it doesn't necessarily mean that the community agreed with anything that we said. I mean, it was very good in that there was an exchange of information. So we shared plans, we shared renderings, and the neighbors shared their issues and their concerns and their ideas. So the information exchange was really great. Some of the things that came out of that meeting, you know, there were concerns around the size, the height of the structure. There were issues around the aesthetics and what the structure would look like. And then also around, a big issue was around whether or not this garage would impact property values for many of the homeowners in that particular community. So, so that meeting happened, and then I'd say about 60 days later, we held another meeting. Then this meeting was actually held at Henry Ford Hospital's campus on August 15th, or thereabouts. In that meeting, again, we went door to door. We used the same method, went door to door, went to the same blocks, the same 2 blocks. And really the reason for focusing on this sort of hyper local areas, because these neighbors would be the most impacted by this particular parking garage. So went to those same neighbors, again, did the door knocking, went door to door, left information if neighbors weren't home, and then still had a chance to interact with neighbors. At that meeting, a few members of the Henry Ford Hospital leadership team actually attended that meeting, and we shared some updates in terms of, we heard what their issues were from the first meeting. So we shared what we thought would be, you know, some plans, some change in the plans to help the neighborhood and help the community feel more comfortable. And then after that, our last meeting that we held with neighbors was on October 23rd. Very few neighbors actually attended that meeting. There were a few different change of dates for that meeting, but at the October 23rd meeting, there were just a few neighbors there. And again, we shared, you know, some of our plans of what we would like to do to help get neighborhood and community buy-in for the garage. And at that point, neighbors they were very frank and said, you know, at this point, we don't plan on supporting this garage at all, no matter the concessions that Henry Ford makes. So that's the extent of our neighborhood and community engagement for 2019. Obviously, we don't host a lot of community meetings throughout the winter. So our plan was to re-engage this, you know, late winter, early spring, and then, you know, COVID-19 came and changed all of our worlds. So unfortunately, we have not had much community engagement at this point in 2020, but we do plan on picking this back up and doing some virtual meetings to hopefully at some point, Madam President, and to the community, we really would like to get community buy-in for this project. Our plan is to build, if we receive approvals from, you know, committees and from council, is to build responsibly as we always have done, and to build in a way where the community is really in partnership with us on this project. So it would give me great joy to really be able to engage with the community again so that we can get their buy-in on what a real community investment plan would look like.
So I know, thank you for that, and thank you for giving me the dates of the meetings, and I look forward to you having some more virtual meetings to get them involved. And I know you said you made some changes. So in the changes that you made, do you think that you address the concerns that the community had? Do you think that there are still a lot of outstanding concerns that the community might have? I know you're going to have some more meetings. And then can you just also someone talk about what would be the impact if the garage is not built?
Sure. So yeah, I will. So, and this is also included in our memo, but we did come up with a few bullet points in which we've communicated with the community that we think addresses a lot of their questions and issues. So, and one big part was needing more lighting and security around the space, which that's something that we've adjusted as a part of our plan. The community didn't want to look at just a building, so we actually added some landscaping around the entirety of the building, particularly on the north side of the building, that the 4 neighbors that are most impacted by the structure. So they wouldn't necessarily be looking at a building, but looking at some beautiful greenery, landscaping, some taller trees that would surround that space. We added what planners call, I think, punch holes into the building, so it actually looks like there are windows along the parking structure versus just a solid brick building. I don't know if Mark has it, but the parking structure isn't that sort of that cement prefabricated structure, but it is a brick structure that actually looks just like Henry Ford Hospital. So we wanted to do it in that way so that it's consistent with the other buildings that are on the campus. We would like to, though we haven't had a chance to talk to the community about this, but wanting to do things like alley cleanups and doing some things around the few vacant lots that are around the community. Would love to do so. So this is, thank you, Mark, for sharing. So this here is the is what the proposed garage would look like. Another piece that we changed as a result of talking to the community is, if you notice on the north side of the garage, there's that flat lot. Well, initially there was a 2-story lot that was going to be attached to the garage. So we actually eliminated that 2-story building altogether, just so that the neighbors would, you know, their view wouldn't be blocked, at least on the east side of their homes. So we eliminated that 2-story altogether. And I think those are most of it. Oh, we did invite the city's tax assessor to one of the community meetings and he shared his opinion on property tax values and how they will likely not be impacted at all by this garage. And we also offered, and this was, I think, something that came out of city council, but we also offered to pay for the street permit parking so that neighbors, particularly around the hospital, could have permitted parking in front of their homes. And again, this is something that we hope will help deter patients and employees from parking on neighborhood streets. So all of this was presented to community members, council president, and unfortunately we didn't get a lot of feedback, but this was just our, you know, response to community members. There hasn't been yet an exchange on how the community feels about this, but my hope is that we can get their input, and if we haven't gone far enough, then maybe there's a few more things that we could add to this, again, in terms of what the community investment would be around this parking structure.
Okay, thank you so much. I just want to say thank you both. I know we're moving kind of fast, but I know that we touched on the community concerns, but I'd also like to hear from a community representative who is right there in the community, and she lives very close in proximity to the proposed garage location. And that is none other than Joe Adams, who also has this beautiful smile there. Good afternoon to you, and thank you so much for being here with us.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. You heard them talk about some of the concerns that the community have and some of the concerns that they have addressed. Do you think that most of the concerns have been addressed, and what concerns do you think are still outstanding?
I think that's a difficult question to answer from, you know, like our immediate community. I mean, what we were given was in June, we all received letters from the planning department saying in 3 weeks' time, there's going to be a meeting on this planning application. We were completely blindsided. And the result is, you know, we're applying to put a 7-story, 72-foot, 8-inch wall 5 yards from your property boundaries, your south-facing property boundaries. Zero communication or knowledge, as far as I'm now aware, within the overall community that this was even on the radar. So, you know, as residents, we were just completely thrown into defense mode. Like, no, none of us. I defy anybody in this room, on this call or listening, to say that they would find it acceptable to have a building of that magnitude put in their backyards virtually. So that kind of goes in terms of community engagement. I mean, we were just blindsided until June. It's, as I said, we were all in defense mode from that point on. I mean, what can we do to prevent, if you like, the devastation to the quality of our lives living here? And we also, I think, to some degree, felt kind of isolated because there is a larger community around us. You know, Virginia Park Road and a bit further north, people that will also potentially also be impacted by this volume of traffic on a daily basis in what is single duplex family home neighborhoods. You know, from north of us, that's what you've got. We haven't got the level of traffic that there is on the boulevard or other areas. You know, I think we felt how do I put it? You know, that there are potentially other alternatives that Henry Ford Health System have that would meet their needs. They've got other locations. They own a lot of property south of the boulevard. There's a massive parking lot next to 1 Ford Place. This parking structure would fit in less than a quarter of it. Or sorry, I'll be American, less than a fourth of it. So I don't know, did I answer your question or did I just rant on?
No, you did a good job with answering my question. And I thank you for that. Let me say community engagement is so important. And I'm working on a community engagement ordinance, and it will be the first one of its kind in the nation. And just seeing what is happening in the city of Detroit, and then what happens so often is that the community finds out about things after it comes to the table, and after it's introduced at the table. I don't like that. That sometimes holds the project up. The community is also in awe, and it's not good for either the community or for the developer. And so it's good to have that engagement up front, even before it comes to council. So thank you for that. And just let me ask you one last question, because I also want to talk to Ms. Mosey, who is very important in the Midtown community. I want to just ask you and I know that Ms. Dunn said that there was going to be some more engagement, community engagement, but what do you think could be done better to help improve the engagement and the outreach by Henry Ford Health System and the city of Detroit? Not leaving the city of Detroit out of it, also adding us as part of it, and also the Henry Ford.
Well, I think it goes to the point that this is obviously, I mean, I think the dates that Mark was saying were 2007 and 2012, that these plans have been looked at and the general development, I mean, and this was brought to, you know, this was given to us on June 2009. I mean, through the process, I have got, or me and my neighbours have got linked up with some other local community groups that cover this entire area, and they were not aware of it either. So, you know, if there is an opportunity for communication before a planning application goes in, then that would be ideal. At least people would understand what was coming. We would have more of an understanding as to the needs of the hospital in general. You know, we're not unreasonable. We just, like I said, we're put into a position of being on defense. And that flows through to what, you know, the community engagement or the negotiation in terms of, well, what can we give you to make you agree with this? I mean, if we had more involvement and understanding earlier on, then there's different questions. But right now, we were and still are very disturbed by the devastating impact on our lives. And that's where we're coming from.
Thank you so much. And I look forward to Henry Ford Health Systems hosting more community engagement meetings and getting more involved with the community. I know nobody ever expected COVID, and that has been, I won't even talk about it because it was quite a surprise, and it hit everyone unexpectedly. And everybody is trying to do the best they can with hosting Zoom meetings to try to keep everyone safe. It seems like I'm in Zoom meetings behind Zoom meetings. I was late getting on this one from being on another Zoom meeting. At least we don't have to run around from place to place. We can just click on to another meeting, which helps a lot. But we do all have to do better when it comes to communicating, and definitely in communicating with the community so that they will know what's going on. So thank you so much. I do want to talk to what some say the mayor of the Midtown is Sue Mosey, to just talk to her to hear some of the things that you think, if anything, that you would like to add regarding the greater need for parking in the Midtown and New Center area, and anything that you'd like to add on to what has been said. And thank you so much for being here with us today as well. We can't hear you.
Yep. Now, can you hear me? Thank you
Yeah,
so
thank
much,
you.
and thank you for hosting this conversation. So, as you're aware, we are very active in the New Center and in the Midtown neighborhood, but we also just did a year-long community engagement program with Henry Ford on the neighborhood south of the Boulevard to develop a planning strategy and some activities and new programs that we're rolling out for that area, including some grant programs for home repair and grant programs for all of the legacy businesses on West Grand Boulevard. So we're already moving forward on those as a result of the year-long engagement process we did with Henry Ford and all of the businesses and property owners and residents over in that part of the district. And I think that's a good model for a lot of the engagement efforts that we will continue to do with Henry Ford as they move forward with their campus planning. Now, part of what I want to talk is the impact of Henry Ford not having organized, structured parking and the impact that's really had on New Center and has had in Milwaukee Junction and many other areas where for years and years they've been shuttling and they've been, using surface parking. And that, of course, for those districts has created some real issues because there hasn't been an ability to really densify and create fabric and really create the walkability along the boulevard and back into Tech Town and those areas because we have too many parking lots that separate. For years we struggled with Wayne State for the same thing. And then Wayne finally built 1,000-car deck similar to what Henry Ford was on Forest there. And it really, really helped then free up all these other parking lots for appropriate new housing and commercial development. So Henry Ford did give up a lot of convenient free parking where they built the Pistons facility. They gave up a lot when they built allowed the platform to build the Boulevard building. These have been important in developments in the New Center district. And without Henry Ford's willingness to look towards a deck and an organized parking strategy, it wouldn't have been possible really for them to give up all that convenient, cheap parking. And we really need to continue to have freed up key locations to build this density, to build out these districts, to eventually, create the housing and all of the different price points and types of housing we need with new commercial in the immediate area, which goes far beyond, just the location of the deck. So I totally understand a lot of people, most people don't love parking decks, but unfortunately in big anchor districts that have huge volumes of patients and employees, you do need to have organized structured parking. And that is every district like this in America has organized structured parking decks. So the idea of putting that deck on the service drive where it is least impactful of going back into these neighborhoods and hopefully then not incentivizing people to park all over the neighborhoods by doing a residential permit parking, providing, free parking for them in this big deck will help actually keep more people from just taking over that whole neighborhood over there with just all the kinds of parking that goes on today, which I cannot believe is an easy thing for that neighborhood from a traffic, a noise, a pollution, or any other thing great for that area. So speaking more just from a planning perspective, the idea of organized parking, I think, does accomplish some positive impacts for the broader area around Henry Ford, where they also operate in Tech Town, in New Center, south of the boulevard down at the new Cancer Center. And the idea of just an organized strategy, I think, is what does need to be done. And within that, they still need to, of course, be sensitive and work with the neighbors on how to best accomplish that without, affecting or worsening, a potential day-to-day, issue for the local residents. So I think the 9 concessions that they have worked out or offered are good, and they mostly sound like they are, a good thing for the neighborhood. And there's potentially other things the neighborhood feels they need. I think we'd be interested to know more about what else they think could be additive for their neighborhood. But I do think, big institutions, unfortunately, do require organized parking. that's really all I have to say.
Okay. Thank you so very much for your input and all that you added. I know you keep up. You're right there with all of the projects that are going on right there in Midtown, and we thank you for all that you do in the city of Detroit as well. Don't get an opportunity to talk to you that much, and I know I can learn so much about what's going on in Midtown just sitting there talking to you for probably 10 minutes. You probably can give me a whole rundown. So thank you for everything that you do for the city and in the city.
Thank you.
All right. I would like to now move on to Marcell Todd and Karen Gage to ask them to just let us know the current status and the next steps from the city with this project.
Thank you, Madam President. Good afternoon to you and to everyone. Excuse me. With respect to this project, we just want to indicate that the Planning Commission did vote to approve this matter. Won't rehearse all of the details behind that. You certainly heard all of the issues expressed from the various parties who have been involved. The matter is now properly before the City Council for consideration. Your colleagues at the Planning and Economic Development Standing Committee of City Council received the matter just prior to recess and took it up just last Thursday at their meeting. And at that time, they determined to advance the matter for the setting of a public hearing. And having had the opportunity to review it, they did encourage the petitioner Henry Ford to continue to engage with the community, to engage with the city in an effort to address some of these matters. So we certainly stand at the ready to do what we can do in order to continue that communication, be of help to the extent that we can to resolve some of the community's issues. What the commission has said in taking action on this matter is that they would like to see, again, some of what has already been referred to, and that is more extensive community engagement, more holistic or comprehensive approach to it, where we're really forward-looking, looking not just at the immediate needs that Henry Ford has, but maybe looking again at future needs so that everyone, as Ms. Mosey was indicating, can be a player appropriately in addressing, in this case, parking and traffic needs that, while may be immediate to the entity that is generating them, their impact goes well beyond just that footprint of Henry Ford. And everybody, of course, is well aware of that. But I think a more comprehensive approach to some of our parking needs involving community stakeholders, from those residents all the way through to some of the smaller businesses, would be of benefit, I think, to everyone as we try to solve Henry Ford's immediate parking needs and even can look down the road at some of the future needs. And I believe my colleagues at Planning and Development Department have some other suggestions that may also be helpful.
Yes, and thank you, Marcell. This is Karen Gage with the Planning and Development Department. We've been working through community engagement in post-COVID, and would like to offer to help set up any Zoom meeting to engage with the community with social distancing in mind. And also, Russell Baltimore is part of planning development staff, and he's an architect that works with the community a lot, especially on sensitive issues. And we'd be willing to meet with City Planning Commission, the development team, and the community just to talk about all the design concerns that may impact this project. I do want to reiterate that since the first design that we did see at Planning and Development, there have been significant changes that are moving this project in the right direction. So I do want to emphasize that a lot of the community concerns have been addressed, but I do think it's important to reach out again and just circle back around and see what else we can come up with to resolve that.
You're muted, Madam President.
Okay. I'm gonna try this again. That's the one thing about Zoom. You don't know if a person is hearing you. So I'm gonna try this again. Russell, thank you so much also for being here. If you want to add something, but I just think it's so important that you all reach out as soon as you can to try to get the community back involved into this, so that they can add their input. I just think it's good to have good working relationships with the community. I don't think Henry Ford is going anywhere, and probably the community is not going anywhere. And so I think it's good to have a good working relationship. You're not always going to agree on everything, but it's good to try to agree on as much as humanly possible, and to just hear from them. And then you guys try to respond to Henry Ford as much as you can respond to. Russell, did you want to add something?
I think everyone covered it, but you know, from my perspective in design review, we work all the time with developers and organizations to try and mitigate some of the negative impacts on the neighborhood, to make sure that the developments that are being put forward, you know, fit the scale, fit the environment of where it's trying to go. So we'd be happy to sit down and join a Zoom and try and find a middle ground between the community and Henry Ford.
Okay. Do we have anyone from the community that, any of our listeners that are on Facebook or that are on the phone that have any questions? We have a few minutes. I'd like to hear from you if you are on the phone, and if you do have any questions or comments. If you are on the phone and you press *9, that will raise your hand. If you are on Facebook and you type in your questions, we'll try to get that answer to you. I do see one hand that is raised, and that is from caller. The last 3 digits of your phone numbers are 905. If you can just ask that question as briefly as you can, so that we can get in as many people as we can, I would appreciate it. Last 3 digits are 905. You are, if you can unmute yourself so we can get that question. 905, you are unmuted.
Yes, good afternoon. It's a Virginia Park resident. I'm curious to know, I have just heard Sue Mosey mention all the incentives that Henry Ford worked in offering home repair and 1-year engagement for the east side of the Lodge Freeway in Midtown. Was any of that consideration provided to the residents on Seward and or the impacted residents? And the next question is, with their overall development, how is it going to impact the residential senior citizen building with their future plans and Lexington Village? And the third question is for Mrs. Megan Dunn. The community has been trying to reach you by email. So is there a contact number that you can give to us in the Virginia Park community that we're able to have a dialogue with you, or be able to touch bases with you? Because we haven't been able to get the communication. Me personally have not been able to get a communication back from you, although you may be busy with this project. Thank you.
Okay, so let's take each question. I think Ms. Mosey, you can go first.
Yeah, so we did a community planning process for the last year with Henry Ford and the neighborhood, businesses, residents, and property owners for the area primarily to the south of the boulevard. And that is the area west of the Lodge up to about Churchill. However, one of the activities that was recommended by the residents was a home repair program, a grant program for minor home repairs. So we are launching a program with Henry Ford that we're going to be launching in about the next month. We have raised some funding from the Kresge Foundation. It will be available to property owners both to the north and the south, areas north and south of the Henry Ford Hospital. So we will be doing a mailing that will go to every household about the program within the next 30 days. So anyone in that zone will receive information, and then we'll have a Zoom call to answer questions.
Okay. Ms. Dunn?
Sure. Thank you for the questions. And so I'll address Lexington first. So Lexington Village is the senior apartment that I think it's about a 12-story apartment building that is just, it's adjacent to the proposed parking structure, and it's just south of the on Seward. So we've had engagement with the owners and also the owners, operators, and management of Lexington Village. And we first engaged them because actually initially there's a water line that is running beneath the existing water line that needs to be moved if we are able to move forward with this project. In the initial plans was going to go in the alley just behind the homes on Seward. So in order to, we really didn't want to, overcomplicate things. We wanted to make sure that this construction will have as little impact on the community as possible. So we actually started meeting with Lexington Village, seek an easement so we could move that water line in another alley that we share with Lexington Village. So we started meeting them in order to get for them to grant the easement, which went through fortunately. And so as a result, we are following Lexington Village's lead on community engagement. They asked to actually lead the work, and so that we would be a part of that. And so a part of that engagement is hosting health and wellness sessions and seminars right there at Lexington Village with Henry Ford doctors and providers. And of course, that's something that we had hoped to start this year, but with COVID and social distancing and all of our resources really being dedicated from a clinical standpoint to COVID-19, we haven't been able to host those. So, again, maybe we can think creatively in doing, some of this virtually and picking those conversations back up with Lexington, but we have had extensive conversations with them. And then my apologies if I haven't been in touch. Again, due to COVID, we've had a lot of staff reductions. So my entire staff was on furlough and for the last 4 months. Fortunately, a few of them have been restored, so I'm catching up on a lot of things. So my office number is what I'll share. And on my office number, on that voicemail is my cell phone, which if you call that number and you get my voicemail, my cell phone number is on there, and you are more than happy to reach me there. And my office is 313-874-5005.
Okay, thank you so very much for that. I think there was a Facebook question that was on Facebook, and I think I am off of mute. And that Facebook question is, why does Henry Ford Hospital charge for parking in Detroit but not West Bloomfield?
A really great question, and I can address that, but Mark, I see you took yourself off mute. Do you want to jump in here?
Yeah, real briefly. We suspended charging for self-park, and there's a lot of reasons to do that. One of them, trying to create a disincentive for people parking there and using whether it's the Motown Museum or the Fisher, but we have one of the lowest valet parking rates in the entire city. We charge just $4, but in March, due to COVID, we suspended charging our patients for self-park, and we worked with Councilman Benson very recently, and we agreed that we would be suspending the self-park pay indefinitely. So patients and people visiting the Henry Ford campus now, if they're willing to self-park their car in the underground garage or in any other area that has access, it will be free.
Okay, all right. We are.
Madam President, we have one more Facebook question, if that's okay, just one more.
Yes.
Okay. Someone is asking, will Henry Ford do a traffic study? If approved, would they do the air monitoring before, during, and after construction to see if there's a difference?
I'll answer that, and let me correct a mistake I made. We were working with Councilman Tate. He had brought the issue of self-park and paying to our attention, and we worked with him in his office to correct that problem. But yeah, if that is something that the neighborhood feels would be beneficial as we stated, we did 9 things that we felt we were asked to do to try to make this a better project. We weren't given any other at our last meeting, but we're going to take up the offer of Mr. Gage and Mrs. Gage rather, and Mr. Baltimore to sit down with the community. If there are additional things that we can do to get buy-in from the community, we'll certainly consider them. And I would say it's very likely that within reason, we'll do whatever we can to make this a successful project for everybody.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other questions on Facebook? And I don't see any additional hands that are up. Do we have any other questions from Facebook?
Don't see any more, Madam President.
Pardon me?
I don't see any more, Madam President.
Okay. Thank you. Does anyone want to make a quick 30-second to 1-minute closing comment?
If I may, Madam President, and it really is to kind of echo what some of Mark said, but historically we have worked with community groups and again, in my career with community engagement, it doesn't necessarily mean that we are 100% in agreement on everything, but my goal is to make sure that the community is at peace and is comfortable with any development that Henry Ford is undertaking. And so that's really still our plan for this parking garage, is to build it responsibly, is to do it in partnership with the community, and of course being as inclusive as we possibly can. So hosting more community meetings is certainly on our radar. If doing so in partnership with planning and development and with community members will help bridge this gap of community engagement, then we are 100% on board with that and open to that. I look forward to working with Joe, and Joe and I think we have a pretty good relationship, right, Joe? We may not agree on this garage, but I see her at other community events, and it's not the relationship that's not there. It's just really the community and Henry Ford trying to work a little bit closely, or a lot more closely and collaboratively to build this project. It's a very difficult project, and I understand building a large scale structure in a neighborhood isn't the easiest thing to do, but certainly we are committed very much to doing this the right way. And we feel the right way is doing it in collaboration with the community.
Okay, Joe, did you want to add anything? I know one of the things I don't like is for someone to say something directly to me and I can't comment back to them. So did you want to add anything, Joe?
No, I appreciate Megan's words. I'm actually very encouraged that, I think as the residents here, we felt that we'd had no communication since October, and I'm very encouraged that it sounds like there will now be a forum to continue.
Yeah. Okay, what about you, Ms. Mosey? Did you want to add anything? Okay, CPC or Planning and Development. I can't hear you. Did you have anything, Ms. Mosey? You're on.
No, I just said I look forward to being part of any continuing dialogue on this project as well.
Okay, thank you. CPC, Planning and Development, did you want to add anything?
Thank you, Madam President. Just to echo what has been said, we stand ready to try to move this project forward and make it better for all parties involved.
Okay, Planning and Development, did you want to add anything?
Nope, we just look forward to working with the community a little bit more on this.
Okay, so I want to add some. Did you want to say something, Kevin? I see you moved a little.
Yes, I would just like to add a few things very, very quickly. I've been a Henry Ford employee for 35 years, a lifetime Detroiter, and that's around 60 years, and a U.S. Marine vet. And I would say that over the 35 years that I've been here working at Henry Ford Hospital, I started as an officer out in the field and driving in the neighborhood. And yes, we do have a pretty decent engagement with the neighbors around Henry Ford. Also, we patrol the streets bordering the hospital. And if you check the comp stat and the crime stats, you'll see that the crimes on the streets bordering Henry Ford Hospital are much lower than those in the surrounding area in the city. And that has a lot to do with us being in that area. But over those 35 years, I've also heard thousands and thousands of complaints from neighbors about employees parking on their streets in front of their houses, preventing them from being able to park at their houses, preventing their visitors from able to park when they come visit, disturbing garbage pickup, and even small things like throwing cigarette butts on the neighborhood. And also the employees are arguing about a lot of off-site parking. They would rather park on-site than off-site. And it has a lot to do with the weather sometimes, whether they're running late. You know, employees are going to park on city streets when they're running late. And those type of issues happen. And they've been asking for years, are we ever going to have on-site parking? And I think that this garage, especially being that it's in an area that's already parking. I mean, I understand the concerns of the residents on Seward, but the ones on Pallister and Pole, where the employees park most, are also concerned about the large number of employees parking in their areas, preventing them from being able to park in those areas. And I think that the building of the garage will allow us to patrol even more in the Seward area. Right now, we have officers who go there early in the day for the daycare center. But I think the impact of seeing that security police car in the area helps reduce crime and helps develop engagement with the community.
Okay. Thank you so very much. I just want to say thank you to everyone who was a part of this meeting today. I want to just say that today's discussion demonstrates my commitment to community outreach and engagement, which I think is so important. And my community outreach ordinance will ensure that citizens are not only informed of upcoming changes within their community, but it will also give them a chance to voice their concerns. The public hearing for the community outreach ordinance will also be next Tuesday, September the 22nd at 10 a.m. during formal session. So if anyone wants to join that public hearing for my community outreach ordinance, I would love to have you there. Also, you can follow me on social media, and I know this meeting is also being recorded and will be on social media, or you can call my office at 313-224-1245. Although we're not there, someone has the capabilities from technology to be able to answer your call. If you want other information on this meeting or any other meeting and any initiatives, I want to thank you for spending this time with me. We went a little over. We started a little late. Thank you for your patience with me. I want to tell you one thing that's so important to me, and that is remember to wear your mask. When you go out, put that mask on your face. Keep that mask on your face. I'm one that have had COVID-19. That's right, I don't want to see anybody have COVID-19. I want everyone to stay safe. I want everyone to stay alive. I hate to see someone lose their life, and especially from COVID-19. So it's something that I take extremely serious. So please keep that mask on your face when you're out. Please practice social distancing. And to everyone, have a wonderful rest of this day, this Wednesday. I understand the weather is very nice outside. I've been inside on Zoom meetings all day, but I understand that it is very nice. Everyone, thank you again for participating. I look forward to having additional conversations with all of you, especially you, Ms. Mosey, because I don't get an opportunity to talk to you that much. And I do want to hear what's going on in Midtown and around your area. So thank you all so very much. I think we're going to have to just plan a special Zoom meeting for me and you, Ms. Mosey. I look forward to doing that. Thank you, Ms. Adams, for joining, giving your input. Thank you, Henry Ford Hospital. Thank you, CPC. Thank you, Planning and Development. Thank you to my staff, whom I would not be able to do what I do without having a staff that's texting me and emailing me at 2:30 and 3 o'clock in the morning saying, this is what we're going to do tomorrow. Yeah, that's right. I look at them just like that too, Jamie. Really? I look at my phone at 2:30 and say, really? I mean, it's gotten so bad now. I'm getting texts from constituents at 3 o'clock in the morning. So
Oh,
you
boy.
know, when you start getting them from the constituents at 3 o'clock in the morning, that's pretty bad. But you do what you have to do. So I thank you all so much. I look forward to continuing to move forward in the city of Detroit, to all of us continuing to work together and doing what we have to do to help this city and to grow this city so that we all are prosperous and we all are happy individuals in the city that we live and or work in. Thank you so very much for this afternoon. Everyone, please stay safe. And until we meet again, have a great one. God bless you, and I look forward to it again. Have a great
Thank you,
evening.
Madam President.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Madam President.